I reached out to you this time because I have nowhere near the number of followers that you do. Our show isn't quite that big yet, although we just passed a milestone, yay. But we're getting more in the past month since this ideology's gone mainstream. I'm getting a lot more messages from people. I'm getting a lot of messages from parents in particular whose children are starting to speak some of what I call the magic words, like the phrases of woke ideology. And a lot of these messages are almost desperate sounding and like, how do I talk to my kid but not push them away? And and so I wanted to talk to you and see what's it been like for you this month? What kind of messages are you getting? What's your maybe you can see what's the quote you use from Lord of the Rings?
It's like you can see the wheel of fire with your waking eye or something like that.
So
I don't
tell me
remember.
what the
It's
Wheel
not
of
good.
Fire looks like based on your inbox.
People are freaking out. People have realized that uh, some big change that's far more significant and incomprehensible than they had realized has broken loose, and they're shocked by the quickness with which people seem to be taking it up. Like you identified the magic words thing. So my inbox for the first couple of weeks after George Floyd died was like this ocean of people saying, "By the way, James, this is now in my, whatever walk of life, whether it's family, whether it's especially workplaces, academic department, school, whatever." For like 2 weeks, I got so many examples sent to me as like, "Hey, guess what they're saying at where I work?" I'm like, I know. uh, literally everybody is sending me this, and it's at every place of work. And then it kind of started to evolve into more personal stories of people panicking and talking to me about how the kind of woke ideology is kind of cracking into and ruining aspects of their personal lives. So the work life thing still continues. I'm still getting it's calmed down a little bit for whatever set of reasons. I'm still getting probably 1,000 messages or more a week of these kinds of
Wow.
storytelling. Confession or begging for help is always the punchline at the end. And even so, they're hard to differentiate one from another because there's so many. It feels like it's the same story with slightly different details. Whether it's somebody's children have started to say this and have denounced their parents. I had somebody send me something yesterday saying that it feels like, or maybe it was this morning, and time is also blurring together, but send me a note saying that her sister has taken this stuff up, and recently they had, the other day, a family gathering for the first time in a little while. And her sister, she said the feeling was it was like she was looking straight through us, like we weren't there or that we weren't human. And
Oh,
is all woke now, and it's all wokeness stuff. And all she does is these Instagram campaigns to raise money to throw at Black Lives Matter and other woke charities, but somehow is managing to pull down like six figures off of that herself as her portion. And then I'm hearing from interracial couples, or I was for a while a lot, hearing from interracial couples that are telling me about how one of the whichever partner is lower on the oppression status hierarchy is being beleaguered by the one that has more oppression status, and like suddenly you have people married 15 years and it's, well, you've always been kind of racist. And it's like, well, you know me, I'm not racist, blah blah blah, we've been together
wow.
15 years. And then the person's like, well, 15 years isn't really long enough to know somebody where it comes to something like this. And it's like,
Wow.
that's messed up. And then I'm hearing from people whose therapy sessions with their therapists, if they're cross racial, have just turned into like struggle sessions about white supremacy and white complicity, even to the point where people are talking about how they're in therapy to work through the trauma of having been raped by, say, Black men. And then with a Black therapist, and we're talking about a white woman in this particular case I'm thinking of, she was gang raped by several Black men at once. And the therapist knows why she chose a Black male therapist as part of to work through the struggle. They've been together for a few years, successful. And then all of a sudden, after George Floyd died, it's all of a sudden, she said she's talking through whatever it is. And then you're at this moment, and it's like, well, I haven't had the best track record, experience with Black men. So I have these issues. And then the therapist is like, cuts her off and is like, no, you need to understand the systemic nature of racism and what would lead people to be in positions like that. We're not
Wow.
going to blame Black men. Like at the moment of that vulnerability in a therapy session, And then I'm getting emails from people. My favorite ones, I mean, it's grim. I'm not favorite in the sense like it's like I'm happy, but it really shows what's going on. Are people who are writing to me about their workplaces that had brown fragility or white fragility or something, or some gay sensitivity, some odd training that they're all forcing everybody to have now. And they're like, I got along with my colleagues before and everything was really good. And, we worked together well, and it seemed like a pretty functional office. Nothing's perfect, little scuffles here and there. But then all of a sudden, it's like they decided we had to have this training. And so they take us, and like the brown people have to sit there, and every white person in the room is now forced to explain how they're racist to us. So all of our coworkers are now like telling us that they're racist all the time. Or in the case where it's across like a sexuality thing, it's like all these people are like, I've never admitted it to you, but I secretly hate gay people. Like now that's a really comfortable office to work in.
Wow.
And then it's like they start with the sexuality ones. It's crazy because then it's like for weeks afterwards or days afterwards, it's like they come to my office all day long and apologize for how their religion makes it so they hate gay people, but they're trying to be cool and understand. So now it's like they start asking really prying and probing questions about their sex lives all day long. And it's like, holy crap, like how is this helping
How
people?
do they get any work done?
Well, I mean, they don't. That's the other thing. That's the thing actually that really needs to be understood, that this is like the most navel gazing, narcissistic void ideology that I've ever seen in my life. It's like definitely designed to make people look for their self-pity. And they say that stuff is only being authentically done if you're constantly looking at the issues like racism or whatever. So nobody gets any work done. Everybody just has to talk about social issues that didn't exist 2 weeks ago constantly. And nobody's getting any work done. I even saw a scientist tweet a couple of weeks ago saying that I think it's like a nuclear medicine scientist or a nuclear engineering scientist, something important. And they were like, I feel like it's inappropriate to even do any work. We should only be our regular work. We should only be doing anti-racism work at this time.
Wow.
And it's like, so all these people now are asking me like, what do I do with my workplace? And I'm like, quit and go start something similar with your talent, because the thing you left can't compete and you're going to destroy them. In 6 months, you're going to have all of their customers because they can't compete, because they're going to just be mired in arguing about racism and sexism and homophobia and trans stuff all the time. And just don't let it into your new company you start. Quit and start your own thing.
That's what I think is going to happen with the churches, because it's infiltrated, as you know, it's been moving into churches for a while, and which fascinates me as a new Christian, having left that ideology, having left that religion of wokeness, and then to find it in the church. And in the past month, just like it's ramped up everywhere, it's now infiltrating my old church. And people are asking me, should I stay in the church and fight? Or my feeling on it is, I mean, I'm all for anybody who wants to fight it, but I kind of feel like once it's in and it's going to converge upon the whole place, like it's going to fail. People are going to leave the church, because that's not why they came there, is to be in a constant identity politics, struggle session. And so they're going to go looking for an alternative. So provide the alternative. That's
exactly right. And what will happen is they'll say, oh, we're the Justice Church. And that's the chauvinist, sexist, racist, or whatever church. And then what people will end up having to do is say, well, all right, if that's what you say. And because the inflation on the moral currency of this stuff is out of control. And so it used to be like, calling somebody a racist was like dropping $1,000 on the table, but it's going to be like Zimbabwe bucks before you know it. You're going to have, you're going to need like a wheelbarrow of tears rather than a mug of tears or whatever, or even a single crocodile tear to get anybody's sympathy. And so it's true. People, this ideology is a universal solvent, and it has matured to the point where it literally can and will dissolve anything that lets it in. And so the solution to that, I was telling people until quite recently that they should, you don't want to abandon, they want you to quit, etc. And I literally was just advising somebody that I know who works in one of these major journalistic outlets. My advice was quit, brain drain the place. Everybody who's competent, brain drain it, turn them into, I said, hold them to the fire of Keith's Law. Keith's Law is the political science law that the more political a thing is perceived to be, the less credible it is. And so let them. like, okay, that's the new woke times. Okay, fine, and we're gonna bail and we're gonna go do something different, and whatever it is, and it's not gonna be comfortable at first, and but in it's nobody's gonna be able to compete if they're constantly engaging in struggle sessions all the time, and people will. I mean, the number of emails that I get right now from people who are like, I'm scared to lose my job, blah, blah, blah. It just tells me that if there was another job they could go to, they would in a heartbeat. So it's now time to start building those things and just brain drain everything that wants to be woke and see how long they stay woke. Corporations won't stay woke if they get brain drained.
Yeah.
They'll be like, whoa, we're losing all of our talent. What do we do? I know, let's get rid of this garbage. And they'll actually start firing the people who are problem causers, because that's what was happening to them before. They were getting fired here and there, but very carefully, for causing problems in the workplace and usually not being very diligent workers. Those things seem to be going hand in hand.
Do you think that will really happen though? Because if the board of directors level is truly woke, I'm thinking of like a publicly traded company. If the board is actually truly woke, then their stock price is not the measure by which they will measure success of the company, and so they might be willing to just self-immolate the entire way down.
I mean, that's kind of some of them will, and that's okay too.
We can party.
That's why somebody needs to be exactly. Somebody needs to start just making the alternatives. I saw Lisa Bildy, who was very successful at doing a pushback effort in a Canadian Law Society, talking about it the other day on Twitter. She did fight back, and she actually won the fight that she was pushing back. And she said now that she's moved entirely away from fighting, and now it's just the objective to build new things that aren't invested in this garbage. Yeah. And she says that's the next wave, and I think she's right. And the sooner people start latching onto it, the better. It's like time to rebuild a society that's uncancelable.